welcome to a very special media-themed episode of The Point. Well, we've got a couple of great points for you. In fact, we have 3 great points for you. Number one is going to come from the will of DC. Political parties doing social media marketing. Is it useless? Or can it actually help? We'll discuss that in just a minute. Then our second point is the great success of ethnic minorities on YouTube. Is that because traditional media is shutting them out? Why in the world would minorities ever succeed on YouTube? No, I'm kidding. We'll discuss why they've had that success. And then finally, what is your Klout score? What's our Klout score? What does it mean and does it matter? I'm actually quite worked up about that, so I can't wait to get to that segment. Now, our panelists today are fantastic. Drew Baldwin is the founder of Tubefilter. It's an online entertainment content development company. He's got popular shows like Tubefilter News. They're doing the Streamy Awards. There's a lot going on in Drew's life. Benny Liu is the co-founder and CEO of NewMediaRockstars.com. It's an online magazine. Covers and analyzes new media content, culture, and news. And also an internet marketer and producer. Look at that. And finally, we've got Meg Turney, a veteran cosplayer and host of Megabit and Techno, and also recently featured on SourceFed. And at this point, if our audience is half as ignorant as I am, they're wondering.
But you got cosplay right.
No, I did. But what in the world is cosplayer?
We're learning together. Cosplay is basically, the word is costume play put together, and basically it's people who dress up like anime, video game, comic book characters.
And when do you guys have sex?
All the time.
Okay. So are these like the fuzzies, like where they dress up like?
No, furries are completely different.
Oh, okay,
I love that you call them fuzzies though.
Okay,
like if I were a furry, I would be like, oh no, I'm a fuzzy. That's so much nicer. But no, they're completely separate.
Completely separate. You guys dress up but don't have sex.
Yeah, but we don't do the full
weirder.
like headpiece. Come on, we're still ourselves.
Oh, you're still yourself.
And we still have sex. I mean, come on.
Okay, all right, but not. Okay, all right. We'll get back to the sex in a second.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, now we move on to our first point. Which comes from the will of DC. He's a great creator on YouTube, talks about YouTube all the time. The question is, of course, does social media matter in politics? Well, he's got a very strong opinion about that. Let's watch.
Hey, I'm the Will of DC, a YouTube journalist whose show, YouTube News, is the premier place for news and discussion about anything YouTube related. My point today is that politicians are using social media marketing in all the wrong ways. It seems like the conventional wisdom is that Democrats rule and Republicans drool when it comes to social media, and every time I watch a YouTube video from a big liberal talking big liberal points and Romney's ad plays in front of it, before it, or to the side of it, I just want to scream. But then I see the same thing with liberal Senate candidates' ads playing against videos from birthers or some other crazy opposite demographic. Why are they marketing themselves there? The thing Google is best at is demographics, metrics, and metadata. You can see that these people don't like you and aren't your demographic, so why are you wasting advertising money there? As a YouTuber, I hope they had to pay a crazy CPM for those ads, but being a YouTuber, I know they probably didn't. So it's not like anyone can even make an argument of, oh, let's play those ads because we'll make money off of them. Why do politicians feel the need to market online anyways? No one likes to see political marketing when they're trying to enjoy their day on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube or, whatever. Do any of you see anyone using social media marketing correctly? Because I don't. Thanks for talking about my point, and make sure to follow me on Twitter at The Will of DC and subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Will of DC. Thanks, guys.
Will, what are you doing telling people that they're wasting money? No, I love it when Romney wastes money on YouTube. I think that's a fantastic thing. And I love Will. He does great updates on what's happening in YouTube. And I also want to take whatever he's taking before he does the broadcast.
I love
like, that dude's got some, he's got some energy. He's like all wound up and he's like, let me tell you what else is going on. I'm like, man, I thought I had energy. All right. Anyway, so Drew, is he right? Are both sides doing a crappy job online in terms of social media, or is there something to be had here? Can they actually get something?
Okay, first of all, I think Barack Obama kind of ruined it for everyone because he just so dominated in the previous election, and those numbers are still sustaining. I mean, if we take a look, he's got 16 million Twitter followers. He's got 26, almost 27 million Facebook friends, and then what does Romney got? 500,000. Twitter followers, maybe just under 2.
Yeah,
Facebook
sounds like
friends.
a girly man to me. I mean, you want to come in with what kind of weak sauce is 550,000 Twitter followers when you're running up against a dude that's got 16.5 million Twitter followers? But look, in the end though, does it translate into votes?
Well, that's really the question. It's like, you want to target this at people who are going to vote. And I think I take issue with one thing that Will said, is that he says it's these ads don't match up, someone's making a mistake. But I think actually it's really important that when you're watching a Romney video, that a Barack Obama ad pops up before, because what they're trying to go after is that small margin that really controls elections, right? Some of these presidential races are so close that you really need to sort of edge out your competition. So what you want to do is, if someone is a Romney fan diehard, then maybe that's a wasted ad. But if you're a diehard Obama fan and an Obama video runs, that's also a wasted ad. It's that moment where the people are on the fence that you want to try to influence. So I actually think that's pretty strategically.
Well, that makes sense. But on the other hand, Benny, if you're already a Twitter or a Facebook follower of President Obama, you're probably going to vote for him anyway. I mean, voting is in some ways the least you can do. Like, it feels like following him in social media is a larger step in a sense. So it seems like he's just locking up the people who are already voting for him. So is that an issue, or do you think, hey, look, maybe if they've already invested that kind of time, they'll be more likely to vote? I don't know. What's your take on it?
Well, I think that, the key with social media is that you always need to be engaging your audience, and a factor of matter is when you have so many followers and everything, want to be constantly engaging them. That way, it kind of helps build your brand for the long run. And Obama has done a really, really good job with constantly live streaming, engaging with his fans, and that shows with his election in 2008. I mean, he won 66% of all the young votes under 29.
So, but Meg, is he going to be able to hold that mojo? Because now I know a lot of younger voters are a little disappointed because they were actually looking for change, right? Like they were hoping that the system changed or something. And so I think that they got a sense that it was something a little grander than what we got.
But I think that's why it's important that he is constantly engaging his Twitter followers, because those are the people who are going to be disenfranchised, who said, I believed in this change and the world is still pretty much the same. So he needs to tweet and say, hey, I know I said that we were going to change and I was right. In this next 4 years, here's what we're going to do. Those are the people who aren't necessarily, young people aren't necessarily locked up for President Obama. They want to see what he's bringing to the table, and social media is a great way to do that. So we talked about Mitt Romney doesn't have many Facebook fans or Twitter followers, but to be perfectly honest, the people who are on Twitter probably aren't going to be voting for Mitt Romney, and the people who are going to be voting for Mitt Romney don't have Twitters. They don't have Facebook, and they don't care about that as much. It's not as important to them. People who are tech savvy are almost always on Barack Obama's side, but it's important for him to keep re-engaging that audience and saying, look, I know that you feel down. I know that you hear in the media that I let you down, but here's what I did right, and here's what I'm going to continue to do right.
One of my favorite moments in the campaign was when Rick Perry, who was running, of course, current governor of Texas, was running in the campaign. And he said, yeah, you can follow me on the Twitter. Okay, that's when you know you're not social media savvy.
Right, well, don't try to be something you're not. I mean, if you're not social media savvy.
But do you guys think Meg's right? I mean, I'm always amazed anytime anybody's enthusiastic about Mitt Romney. Like, I saw a shirt the other day on a college campus that had Mitt Romney's face on it. It said Mitt Romney, and I asked the guy, is it ironic? Like, do you really, I really didn't know. I was asking an honest question, are you making fun of him? Or do you actually love Mitt Romney so much you put his face on your chest, right? And he was like, no, it's not ironic. He got mad. But are there all these, young people in the country who are like, oh man, Mitt Romney rocks it. I can't wait to see what he's going to say on Facebook.
I think it's less about loving Mitt Romney and more about hating President Obama, because a lot of young people cling to buzzwords that their parents tell them, or they're from the Midwest, I'm from Texas, and hear things like, oh, Obama failed us. And so it's not about Obama being terrible. It's about Obama being evil and not about Mitt Romney being great.
Yeah, that's not bad. Do you ever get motivated like that? You know what? I was rooting for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I'm going to follow the Cowboys on Twitter because I hate them.
I'm not going to follow them on Twitter, but if the Yankees are in the World Series, whoever they're playing, I'm going to cheer for because I hate the Yankees.
You made an earlier point about the number, and the magnitude of followers for Obama, and I think that's really important, is just to talk about numbers in general. I know we're going to get to that a little bit later in the program, but it can be gamed now. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot of gamification going on where you can spend money to give the appearance of having a lot of social media sort of activity,
right?
That becomes a press story in of itself. Right? This idea that the number of followers you have or the number of YouTube subscribers you have is some sort of completely objective number that's a testament to.
But do you think they gamed it? Because I know you can. Like Newt Gingrich, there was a story about how he gamed the system, and it turns out he doesn't have these millions of followers. He paid for it. It's really pathetic, right? And then I remember our own Michael Schur on the Young Turks caught up with Donald Trump in Las Vegas and asked him, hey, why should anybody care who you endorse? And he said, well, I've got a lot of Twitter followers, right? And I was like, whoa, that's your answer, right? And so we had a good time with that. But then under that rubric, well, then Snoop Dogg should be, or Lady Gaga should be the most influential people out there. And are they? I mean, you know, does that, well, I'm trying to figure out, does it translate to votes at all, do you think?
Yeah, one of the major things that, you know, for me, coming from an internet marketing standpoint, like a lot of people like really talk about, oh yeah, I have this many Twitter followers, I have this and that. But in the end, you know, from a business standpoint, are these numbers going to translate into sales? I mean, that's pretty much the bottom line for any business.
Exactly the right analogy. And I'm not sure they do, you know. Look, on the one hand, there's a psychological feeling of like, if I've invested so much time into something, then I must really like it. So like if you bothered to follow President Obama, you might be more likely to vote for him when the election comes around.
Another thing to note is also like, you know, you don't want to underestimate the power of the retweet too. Because for me, like, you know, I have a Twitter following.
That's a good point,
and, like,
yeah.
you know, I have, you know, Democratic followers and I also have Republican followers. So like, you know, if I'm following Obama and I'm retweeting his stuff, that's getting exposed to like, you know, my audience too. Mm-hmm. So, you know, that's.
The one thing that I see both candidates not accomplishing is that the internet can afford such niche focused campaigns. It's interesting that they keep going for the sort of the broad campaign when there's huge opportunities to sort of isolate certain groups and message them directly. That's something that you can't do with mainstream.
So what would you guys do? I mean, you guys are in a lot of ways experts on this. If you were running a campaign, you're Romney or Obama, how do you reach the guys that you need to reach through social media?
I mean, on my part, I think, you know, going off of what you said, I mean, new media marketing is really about, you know, the niche markets. And so, you know, I agree with him in a sense where, yeah, you know, these politicians need to really target the niche markets and, you know, kind of do the bottom-up effect of marketing. And I think in the long run, that's what's going to fare well for them.
Yeah, you need to identify sort of how many key groups you need to get in one state, because every elections one a state at a time.
Yep,
and
definitely.
You know, I mean, you do some analysis to see how much resources you need to dedicate in one state and
if you wanted to, so you're absolutely right. It's the swing states are going to decide the whole election. In fact, doing a national ad is honestly, and they know this, is a waste of money, right? So Obama's going to win California, and Romney's going to win Alabama, and we all know that, right? Yeah. So, but how do you find the independents? Is there a way on social media of finding independents in Missouri?
But I think that one of the things that Will of DC took issue with was an Obama ad playing before Mitt Romney. But like you were saying, like undecided voters are a huge percentage that you need to get your hands on. So if someone is interested enough to go see what Mitt Romney's stance is on something, putting an Obama ad in front of it might be genius, because they might say like, oh yeah, I should check out Obama's side on this as well. Like maybe they're not a Mitt Romney diehard fan, maybe they're just trying to be informed with their votes, and those are the people you want to get a hold of.
Right, I feel like there's a lot of decided people on the internet, because there's the people who are like, oh, I hate this and I love that, right? And they're all passionate. On the other hand, there's a ton of undecided people that don't know anything about politics that are, you know, on Facebook, Twitter, etc. So it'll be really interesting to see if it has a big difference. And, you know, on the other hand, of course, Ron Paul is the guy that is followed most online. And how'd that work out? So you got to keep it real. That sometimes doesn't work out great. So now you guys tell us what you think. What would you do if you were in charge of their campaigns? And do you think social media makes a difference? I understand that you leave the comments down below. If you want to try to leave them up top, go for it. I don't know how that works, but give it a shot. And when we come back, we will be discussing why minorities do so well on YouTube, especially Asian. Fascinating. Let's discuss it when we come back. Our next point is about how so many of the most successful YouTube producers are actually ethnic minorities. And in fact, we've even put together a montage for you guys. Check this out.
Why the long face?
Bad jokes are riot.
Well, then that would be just one big sudden coincidence, and we don't believe in coincidences, right, Dr. House?
I agree. What's up, world? It's Friday.
Eyes closed down, listen up, open up, view with an open eye. Nah, I ain't perfect, I'm just hoping I had a hard.
And now it's time to finally jump some cars. Woo! Let's go. What the hell was that? It was too small.
If If you have a special event coming out and you need an elegant foolproof look, this is the tutorial for you. Next, I'm going to use Maybelline's Color Tattoo in a shimmering white color that's also going to double up as primer. Just finish off with lipstick. I'm using Color Sensational in Pink Freeze.
My laziness motto is,
why do it today when we can put it off for months? Hey, we need more hot chocolate.
with him around, I won't get anything done. I need my afternoon nap. And can you do what you're doing somewhere else? I'm a really light napper. You know how it is.
You know what people don't get enough of? Is compliments.
Like your shirt, it matches your phone, which is cool. And
people don't know how to react to compliments anymore.
Those are really cool boots you got there. Hey man, you look like a nice guy.
So you know what I don't get? When a friend pulls out the "how have you not" routine. How could you not have heard of this band? How have you not tried raspberry sauce? The only way it's impossible is if this happened. I think I might watch this movie today. No movie! No! Well, that's pretty much the only explanation that would make sense.
But that's all good. We're gonna change that this week on Pimp My Horse. Well, guess what? We took your horse's ass and replaced it with bass. Bass, that is!
Conservatives flipped out about sovereignty. My God, American sovereignty, we're not gonna turn it over to the United Nations or other national groups. Who the hell was that last guy?
You had those Will of DC pills.
Yeah, I know, right? And that guy's name is unpronounceable. I don't know. Jesus. All right. Actually, the Washington Post had an interesting write-up about this, and they said, among the 20 most subscribed to channels on YouTube, 8 feature minorities, most are Asian American, many more Black and Latino shows populate the top 50. These producers are also finding an audience that has been largely neglected by Hollywood. Nearly 80% of minorities regularly watch online videos, compared with less than 70% of whites. So that's a fascinating phenomenon that might partly explain their success online. But let me give you some more details, which are also really interesting. Ryan Higa is a Japanese-American comedian. He's got 5.2 million subscribers, as you saw there. Second among all YouTube producers. That's so impressive. Michelle Phan is a Vietnamese-American who is 20th on the list. And she once was turned down for a job at Lancome to work at the makeup counter. I love that. When now she's become the company's spokesperson. So that's such a huge win. I love the power of online. And then Daystorm is an African-American rapper that you saw there. And he's a comedian as well. And he's got now more than 150 million views. And then there's this Turkish guy who likes to scream and yell, who apparently has like 730 million views, but I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying. Okay. So who should I start with here? Oh, Benny. What do you think? Okay, how's this for a question? What's going on with Asians online? Why is it working so well?
It's funny that you mentioned, because I was actually recently featured in a documentary called Uploaded, the Asian American Movement. And what this documentary is about is it talks about Asian American talents pre-YouTube and after the conception of YouTube and everything. And so one interesting thing to note is that before like all these new media outlets like YouTube, Blip TV, and Vimeo, Asian Americans didn't really have any place to showcase their talent. And when you're dealing with mainstream Hollywood, you have all these gatekeepers that you need to kind of go through. You have casting directors, you have producers, studio executives, and everything. And it's a lot to go through just to really get something going for yourself. And now with YouTube, all you need is really a camera, balls to get in front of the camera and upload, and there you go. There's your audience.
Yeah, and you're 100% right. I've been working in media a long time, and I've been in the meetings where they actually make those ridiculous decisions. And and it seems like Asians are often like, well, that's the sidekick. Obviously, he's going to be the third or fourth person in the movie or TV show, etc. And almost never the star. And in the meetings I've been in, it didn't involve Asians, but they would make gross stereotypes like, oh, he has a New York intellectual look, and he won't work as the host. That was code words for he's Jewish. Okay, and sometimes it'd be Jewish executives who said things like that. And then if it was a black guy, well, I'm not sure he'd work in the Midwest. So these are the code words, right? So now when it's Daystorm on YouTube, there's no code words. He's like, here's what's gonna work. I'm gonna frickin' do this, and I'm gonna get 150 million views, and how do you like me now? So I think the gatekeeper is a huge part of it. Now, but we all got past the gatekeepers, Drew. The question is who succeeds, right? So why are so many ethnic minorities succeeding? That's an interesting question.
Well, I mean, not to reiterate my point, but I think there's a lot of limitations in mainstream television, right? Which is the most prolific medium. Because there's so many few outlets, you have to really go with mainstream bets. And so what happens is much of the programming is going to be focused on mainstream appeal. And I think what's happening now is with what we were saying before, with like the way that you can subdivide niche groups online, because there's an unlimited amount of channels that you can start building those audiences. And I think traditional Hollywood is starting to come around. Like Ben Silverman and his company Electus, which is owned by Barry Diller, is producing K-Town, which is like the Jersey Shore of Koreatown in Los Angeles, and it's an amazing show. And you'll see that there's huge investments in minority networks like Me Too and Yum Yum F. And
it's actually a sound business decision too, because if you have an audience that has not been met yet, it's a niche that has not been served yet, right? Well, if you serve that audience, well, all of a sudden, boom, you're going to have a success on your hands. Like our niche on the Young Turks didn't have anything to do with me being ethnic in any way. It had to do with the fact that the news was so fake. So when we did something real, and as we were talking about during the break, I don't read off a prompter, and you can tell that I actually give a damn, right? And we're not talking robots. They're like, oh my God, hey, look at that, And it was something along those lines. But you guys get a sense that they have a largely Asian audience, let's say if they're an Asian show, or somehow they've broken through and actually they're getting a mainstream audience that covers the whole country and all the ethnicities.
I mean, I think it's been proven that, statistically, that most YouTube viewers are Asian American. I forgot which article I read that from, but the best thing about new media is that it's all about niche markets, and there's literally a demand for any type of content. So
right, they might be the highest percentage of viewers. Like as a matter of like they were saying, blacks and Latinos make up about 80%. 80% of them watch online videos. Only 70% of whites do. It might be even higher for Asians. So that certainly has something to do with it.
I just think that when you have, like in the mainstream media or in television in general, when you don't have a market that, like a group that has someone to identify with, once they find someone on YouTube that they do identify with, whether it's Daystorm or Ryan Higa, but they're loyal to that person automatically. They want that person represents what they want to see, and that's refreshing to them, and they're going to be loyal to that. I think traditionally whites have had themselves represented all over television, so they have no problem. They don't feel threatened or whatever supporting someone on YouTube who isn't like them. They're comfortable supporting somebody who isn't their, they're not necessarily their target audience for. But I think that minorities have been, neglected, and they see someone on YouTube like, that's the person I want to see on TV. Now I'm going to watch on YouTube all the time and be absolutely loyal to support him so that he's successful.
Is there another element to this? Now everybody calls themselves a dork and a nerd. Like in the old days, nobody wanted to be a dork, right? But now you're more relatable if you're a dork, right? And are people sick of watching on TV and the movies the fake plastic guys, the guys and women that are just too attractive, that are unreal in some sense, and they see someone who looks like them and they go, wait a minute, I can relate to that guy, and they watch him more.
I think that's
and by the way, I'm not calling anybody out. I'm not saying they're ugly or anything. They look lovely. Michelle's gorgeous. Okay. Anyway.
No, I think that but it's also coming around on the opposite, that people who are nerds or whatever say you're not a real nerd, and now they're infuriated that somebody would come and invade their real interests and pretend to be this person to be more relatable. I think that people are starting to be sick of, for instance, shows like New Girl, where Zooey Deschanel is so quirky. People blow back on that because they think no, you're really not that quirky, and stop trying so hard to be what we really are. You know what I mean? I think it's very interesting that a population like nerds, who traditionally are oh my gosh, you're gonna be nice to me, let's be friends, are suddenly you're not nerdy enough, and you don't represent me, and I don't.
Well, that's the problem Drew's been having. He's not Asian enough.
Well, I mean, we talked about it.
Is that why you went behind the scenes and started Tubefilter? Because you're how's a white guy ever gonna make it an online meeting?
Well, you know what? Actually, it's interesting because I think the strongest tool that you can have in online video is authenticity. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we see that's consistent through any channel that is successful, right? Your channel, Ray William Johnson, Daystorm, they all have, they're fearless in sort of being honest about how they present themselves, and I think people really relate to that because, like you said, it's not fake, it's not overly polished. It's sort of like the success of that Dove campaign where they took the airbrushing off and you feel like you can start having conversational relationship with your entertainment.
I think we all agree that that's a huge part of it. Like, Ray William Johnson is of a ethnicity no one knows. Like, I don't think anybody knows, is he white, is he black, is he Latino, what is he, right? And we feel like, yeah, because he looks like us, you know, in a lot of ways. And he doesn't look like, it's not like there's no ethnic minorities in TV or movies, right? There are, of course, but the Asian guy plays the third guy, right? And the black guy can play the second guy, but he's also impossibly attractive and like doesn't have a six-pack, he has like an 18-pack and et cetera. Whereas Ray, you know, looks like a regular dude. He looks like a good, I mean, you know, I'm not putting him down, but you go, okay, hey, that could be my friend. And there he is making videos.
That's kind of why Kev Jumbo's, you know, so successful. I mean, it's because of his authenticity and like why he has such a, you know, large Asian American following is that, you know, a lot of the jokes, like, we kind of get. I mean, he's with his dad. He talks about like, you know, how his dad like, is worried about his schoolwork and blah 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 and how he can't go out and everything. I mean, it's you know, we can relate to that, and which is why, you know, he gets the support he gets.
Right, and I think it works for other immigrants too. You know, yeah. I get jokes about Asians, and when I do my dad and I say, you know, Cenk, why you are not as funny as Jon Stewart? You know, I think a lot of immigrants go, yeah, I have a dad like that.
Well, I think like the shit girls say phenomenon. Yeah. There was a shit everything everyone has ever said, you know, for every niche market they came out. So it's all about relatability, and I think with online video, like being fake is very hard to pull off an online video, especially if you're posting all the time like these YouTube celebs are. It's so hard to be, you know, to study everything you need to know and then try to make these things come off as real, because the gritty style of YouTube lends itself to needing to be authentic.
Absolutely. I think, you know, going back to the first point about politics, is that I think one of the successes of the Obama campaign was this truthfulness, right?
So it appeared.
I mean, the impression of which, right?
Right, right. No, absolutely. I think that's right.
And I think the numbers really reflect that type of authenticity. When you feel like you're copying something, you know, the audiences on the internet are very shrewd and they're ruthless. Because they for the first time, they're actually able to directly interact. Yeah. And you know, they want to shout at the top of the mountain. So they hate something, they love something, they're very
And they don't like people talking down to them. No. Because the old model of media was, we are talking from the mountaintop, especially in my field of talk shows, like, I am the expert and I will tell you what the news is, right? And people are sick of that. And they know you're full of crap, and they know you don't know any better than they do. So I think that the hosts and the producers are matching the audience here. I think that's why they're getting such a success. And YouTube also, 50% of the audience is international. So that also makes a huge difference as well.
I think the success of minorities on YouTube it presents a quandary for mainstream television, because I really do think there's some institutional racism. And I think it's some of it is just the paradigm that they've been operating in, but I also think it's the constraints of the medium. Like I said earlier, there's so few outlets. You know, with cable, there's a little bit more, that you really kind of have to go on the mainstream bet, and it's very constraining, and then it creates these sort of institutional paradigms that they're hard to break out of. And now, they can't compete. I mean, Kev Jumbo, Ryan Higa, they are like blowing up, and they're pulling a lot of attention that's not just Asians who are watching.
Yeah, no question. And Drew, I can't wait for the meeting I have in media one day where they're like, well, he's a little too Midwest. We're looking for someone a little bit more, I don't know, what would be code word for Asian? I'm looking for a little one with a little bit more computer savvy.
More industrious.
Everything you say, I'm like, so what? I'm like, oh, he wouldn't be in the Midwest. Oh, that's racism. Oh, okay, I'm sorry, guys. I'm from Texas. I didn't know.
Right. All right. That'll be a fun point we do a couple of years from now. Is there too much racism against white people in online media? All right. Okay, now when we come back, Klout scores. I have to confess, I didn't know what they were. I have found out, and now I'm obsessed with my Klout score. So we'll come back and talk all about it. The final point we have is about your Klout score. Now, I recently found out what this is. It's apparently a company that uses sites like Twitter and Facebook and other social medias companies to find out what your influence is in social media. And it boils it down to one single number. So I can't wait to find out what mine is. We'll share that with you in a second. But first, we've got a video of a guy who seems to care a lot about Klout scores. Let's check that out. All right, two things I got. First of all, I was waiting for the 999. Okay. Secondly, I thought, oh my God, I really hope my Klout score is above 19. Okay, so we did a little research and found out. Turns out the guy with the highest Klout score is, in fact, Justin Bieber. He is at 100. Okay. 100. Yes. Lady Gaga is at 94. President Obama's at 91. Look at Hugo Chavez destroying the competition, scoring a 91.3 above the President of the United States of America. And then when you get all the way down the list, you get to Cenk Uygur at 58. And I thought, 58, hey, yeah, not bad, I'll take it. But then Benny Lou's kicking my ass over here at 63. And Meg's at 53, Drew's at 45. And then the points at 50. And so I was like, wait, we got to outdo Benny somehow, right? So we looked up the Young Turks. You win 69, barely below Martha Stewart.
I have to disclaim something that we went off my personal Klout score, but Tubefilter, we're in the, let's just say the upper 60s. I don't want to.
Yeah, it's upper 60s. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. Not that you care about your Klout score.
I mean, like, I don't really like.
Yeah.
I don't like to brag.
Right. No.
It doesn't really matter.
No, of course not. Except for the fact that immediately, as soon as I found out what it was, I became obsessed. Yeah, like, wait a minute. How do we pump this thing up? Okay.
I mean, if we're all going to fix everything in the record, mine's actually 54 today. 54. It's not 53. That's really, I mean, 54.
Yeah.
54. It's much more respectable now.
Every single person watching this right now is checking their Klout.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things that once you hear about it, you have to know, like, where you are on it.
Can anybody, like, okay, so I know nothing, obviously. So nonetheless, I apparently have some Klout. But so can anyone check? So tell me how this thing works.
Anybody can check anyone else's Klout score. You sign in with your Twitter or your Facebook. Basically, it tells you what you're influential in, who influences you. It puts you on like a social media map for if you're like a lurker, if you're someone who's active. It tells you what subjects you're influential in. But the thing is, like, the way it aggregates the subjects that you're influential in is, it's very arbitrary. I have no idea how they do the metrics, but they are terrible. Like I said, I was saying during the break, like, I'm influential in Colorado. I've never been there or tweeted about it. So I'm not quite sure why I'm influential about the subject of Colorado. And on top of that, they have a system called plus Ks. So you get them when you get, the further your Klout score goes up, the more plus Ks you get. And you can give them to people. So if I think Benny is really great about photography, I give him a plus K in photography, and it boosts his influence in photography. But you can write in your own subjects. So one of my office mates thought it would be hilarious to put masturbation on my Klout score. So now I'm influential in photography, entrepreneurship, and then masturbation right there at the top. Just right there.
This video, you might be
no, I mean, it's real. It's very weird. But then it's like, it becomes kind of a middle school thing. So of course I had to do it back. I mean, whatever. He's going to ruin my Klout score.
Middle school thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and now congratulations, you just got thousands of people to do that to their friends.
I mean, well, yeah, you're all welcome.
Okay.
Everybody's going to be, does that make me super influential? Because now I'm making everyone else.
All do masturbation, maybe your masturbation rating will go down.
Right, relatively.
Yeah.
Right. But believe me, we still believe in you. Okay, even if your Klout score goes down a mess.
Cover it up. I have an excuse.
So, and are we going to get into it? Like, so is that what's going to happen eventually? Like, all right, your Klout score overall is you're doing pretty well, but you know what? In kayaking, your Klout score is like -7, so you're going to have to bring that up. Like, we're going to break this thing into specific categories?
I don't think it's like a thing that people are going to say. I mean, eventually, sure, if you're going for a social media job, people might say, well, you're not very influential. You clearly don't know how to harness the power of social media. But people are using it. There was a great piece in Wired a few weeks ago about how companies are finding out people's Klout scores and then giving, you get to go to first class because you got 70 on your Klout score. And they're not even telling them it's based on your Klout score. Those people are the kind of people who, when they get an upgrade, they're going to say, great, I had a great time, and I'm going to tweet about how great Southwest Airlines is.
Oh, that's sick and awesome at the same time.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
In the beginning, I was like, wait, why do they get to go to first class? Because then they're going to brag about, I got it. Okay. But you know what? As a business person, does that make sense, Drew?
Well, the greatest thing I think Klout has going for it is this, what we call like the middle school factor. It's instantly engaging, right? As soon as you find out that it exists, you need to be a part of it, right? And I think that that's really great. And they have this sort of groundswell of support because it plays off your insecurities. What I think the big challenge for Klout is, like Meg said, drilling it down. It's an aggregate number. It's very difficult to de-aggregate that kind of information. And what ends up happening is there's a lot of misfires, right? There's a lot of places where it doesn't line up. There's a lot of people.
So, like American Airlines gives you a first-class ticket because they think you're influential, but it turns out you were influential in masturbation.
Some people didn't do that to themselves. Let's not hate on people who are influential in masturbation.
Masturbation's always done to yourself.
Your Klout score for comedy just went up.
You know, I think one of the interesting points to note about Klout score and business is that companies are starting to hire more and more like influencers for sponsored tweets and everything like that, and your numbers are so important nowadays. Like people boast, oh, I have 100,000 followers and everything. And as Drew mentioned earlier, there's so many ways now to purchase followers and buy views and stuff like that. Like you don't really know whether if a guy has 100,000 followers, you don't know if really that's that's.
So you're saying Hugo Chavez bought his Klout score
I'm not saying that,
just to get above Obama?
I think that they're a little more sophisticated than that over at Klout.
Yeah, definitely.
They've been able to sniff around that. But I think what it's really good at is identifying winners, right? It's like the best of X, the X of Y. And in those categories that they've predefined. But as a marketer that wants to connect with the most influential people in sort of like Tubefilter readers that also really like Lady Gaga, if I want to find that intersection and find that person, it's going to be a lot harder for Klout to go down that way. And so I think that's where the next stage for Klout is really understanding how to map out the levels of influence that are specifically relevant to whatever campaign you want to do, especially in politics when you want to find out who are those key people that are going to influence the right votes so that you can make those wins, as opposed to just identifying this list, right? Really, this list is obvious. Justin Bieber, Lady Gaga, President Obama.
Well, but I think the thing that is really interesting about Klout is, you were saying like sponsored tweets are something that brands obviously go towards. They want a Kim Kardashian to tweet about their, whatever, their new sneakers or whatever, but she has to hashtag that with ad or sponsored tweet or whatever, and people get in trouble for not doing that. So the new thing, like I was saying, is they're taking people and they're giving them something without telling them, hey, we're giving you this because of your Klout score, and they're not saying we're going to pay you for your tweet. We're just going to give you that upgrade, and you're going to organically tweet about it, and people are going to want to trust you more because they think, oh, I really like that brand and nobody paid me, it's not a hashtag ad kind of thing. I really like this brand, and people are more apt to say like, oh, maybe I'm going to check out the sneakers because so-and-so really seemed to like those
sneakers. That's the key to that authenticity that we were talking about earlier, because it will be authentic that way because it's like Inception.
That's interesting. That's another good analogy. So, but another maybe the inner liberal in me thinks, well, okay, does this mean though that the rich get richer in a sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because it's people who are already influential are getting free upgrades, they're getting first-class tickets, they're getting nicer hotel rooms. But on the other hand, you want to cheer for the little guy who doesn't really have a Klout score to get that upgrade he would really appreciate. But nobody cares if he tweets about his upgrade. I mean, really, if we're going to be honest about
harsh.
They want people who are going to reach 1 million people with their tweet about how much they liked X, Y, or Z. So it really is smart for them to pay attention
it does
to
make sense. So would you guys
there.
check people's Klout scores if you were interviewing them?
Well, now they think about it.
No, keep it real. Keep it real. Because look, here, I'll start. If I was interviewing a guy for a social media job, which I actually soon might be, now that I know this, I will check his Klout score. Because that's incredibly pertinent.
Sure.
If it's an editor who's going to edit this video, be cool, be cool. Don't cut me out. Then I don't care at all. Why do I care if he's influential? I just want him to do a good job. But I mean, it could be relevant, right? In some cases.
I mean, for working social media, I mean, like I said, you can buy views and everything now, and buy Twitter followers. It's if somebody puts out a piece of paper onto me and say I have 100,000 followers, so I deserve this job. But if I look up his Klout score, it's like it says your true reach is 500, and that's happened before. Like this is a true story, and so it's kind of like so you can see the discrepancies, and you can really like kind of gauge the type of person he is, and really how much influence that person has, aside from the numbers and that he boasts.
So is that the new GPA? So would you rather have a guy who has a 3.8 GPA, or would you rather have a guy who has a Klout score of 84?
I think hand over fist I would want the Klout score, because nobody cares what your GPA is once you get the job. They care about what your reach is going to be for your brand and what you're going to do for the company you're with. Nobody's worried about, oh, I have a 3.8, that guy has a 3.8, I'm gonna listen to him. They're saying, he has 1 million followers, and all those followers are retweeting everything he says, he's gonna be really valuable to my company.
But you know what, it creates this weird stress and pressure around something you're supposed to be enjoying. Like social media is supposed to be like, hey, I'm hanging out with friends, hey, I tweeted this, whatever, no, now everybody's judging you based on it. And
but I mean, it's just like not tweeting out things like, I'm having fun at the beach, when you're supposed to be sick because your boss will see it. It's the same thing. It's just a check so that your boss doesn't have to read all your tweets to figure out if you're really a slacker or if you're someone who's getting it done.
Are we eventually going to have a combined score of GPA and Klout and BMI and your credit score, and eventually they say, okay, as a human being, you are worth 73. You're like, yes, or 18. Oh no, fail. Is that where we're going?
That'd be kind of scary.
No,
it would be
no
scary,
way.
in my personal opinion. Yeah.
I don't think so.
I think this is pretty close, actually.
I'm sure a dating site will figure it out first.
That's true. That's true. They now have face recognition at some bars, and you can be at home. There's like an app for this or something, and so it gives a raw score for how hot the people at that bar are. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, well that's just useful.
Okay, and I bet that they could probably tap into their iPhones and figure out who they are and their Klout scores.
How hot the people who frequent it?
Yeah. Okay, so it's coming.
Everything. How many women are checking in at that bar? I mean, it's social media is taking over everything.
Now, where you actually rate they have some. Never mind. They have something.
All right, and one last question for you guys. Did you all know your Klout scores before you came on and knew we were going to talk about this?
I had a general idea.
But
I double-checked.
I did, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I did. We were talking about that Wired piece, and that's when I got the masturbation tag that was now so infamous.
Okay, all right. So our next point is about the masturbation tag. Okay. All right, okay. Now, I'm going to just go with Tubefilter. I'm going to go with the Young Turks. Anybody tell me? Oh, yeah, not a big deal. Young Turks, 69. It's a pretty good number.
I think we're not 69. We're a little lower. We're at high 68.
Okay. All right.
High 68.
High 68. I love how specific it is now. I love it.
Hugo Chavez is the only one with a decimal in this list.
No. There are decimals. There are decimals, yeah. And my final goal on Klout is to pass Hugo Chavez. So wish me luck.
More power to Hugo Chavez.
All right. We're going to come right back and tell you what these guys are up to lately. All right, we've had a great panel today. Benny Liu, Drew Baldwin, Meg Turney, all here. Of course, Benny, you're CEO of NewMediaRockstars.com. Anything coming up? A wonderful article about the Young Turks or anything like
that? Maybe soon. Maybe sometime soon. Now that you mention it.
Okay, yes.
On the side. We have a really cool interview next Tuesday, so definitely keep an eye out for that. He's 16-time Grammy-nominated R&B artist. So
but what's his Klout score?
He's doing really well on Twitter now. He's doing very well on Twitter.
Okay, thanks God. Okay, Grammys are irrelevant now. The only thing that matters is Klout score. Meg, of course, is a host of Megabit and Techno, and she's a cosplayer. So, Meg, what do you have coming up? Who are you dressing up as? What are we doing?
Anime Expo is coming up, and as well as Comic-Con. I mean, that's the granddaddy of all conventions. I have 4 costumes for Comic-Con and 1 for Anime Expo. The 2 of them are secret, but one of them is Zatanna, for anybody who's into comics.
Right,
I mean, yeah, clearly. And then the other is...
What does Zatanna do?
Zatanna is, she's a magician, and she is... She's really awesome.
And what's her Klout score?
Yeah, I mean, well, she doesn't have one yet, but I'll make one.
That's a little embarrassing, but...
She's in the mid-68s, I don't know, mid-68s.
Mid-68s. I love it.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
And of course, Drew is the founder of Tubefilter. Well, what's going on lately?
Well, we got some big announcements coming up for the Streamy Awards. Since our partnership with Dick Clark Productions, we've been very, very busy.
I'm familiar with Dick Clark Productions. Yes, I've heard of that.
Yeah, and you know, I think Young Turks was a nominee, and
not a big deal. Yeah.
Not kind of big deal.
Yeah,
kind of big deal. And so we're going to open up submissions soon. Keep an eye on that. And then the most pressing, exciting news is that we just partnered with Social Media Week, and we're going to have a lot going on in September as a part of the Los Angeles edition of Social Media Week.
All right, that sounds great. All right, we'll look out for all of that, and thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to reading your comments about the show as well. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time.
If you've had enough, take out your phone and text FED UP to 95613. And you can always follow me on Twitter